On Proposition 23, the high cost of pollution for the LA community. Studies show that air pollution affects Latinos more than any major ethnic group in Los Angeles County. Proposition 23 seeks to start with an insurmountable hold on AB 32, which was passed in 2006 by bipartisan support, and wants us to do away with the targets for lowering greenhouse gases. The proposition is not just an attack on the commitment to slow global warming. It would endanger the well-being of vulnerable citizens who suffer from asthma, COPD, and similar conditions, and most
advocate for better planning in their communities. So why is AB 32 so important to protect? Well, in 2006, the legislature and this governor, miraculously, did something very positive. They created legislation that was, I think, a very perfect intersection of control and market forces. So you have the regulatory environment that the Air Resources Board is charged with making sure that industry and business sort of deal in a space that actually betters the air quality issues by 2020, but it also employs these market forces to do that, namely cap and trade. And so in 2008, the ARB began work in looking at different ARB and AB 32. And so when the opponents of Proposition 23, or rather the proponents of Proposition 23 talk about how this is really flying in the face of jobs, I think they missed the boat completely. And I think it's most evident in the fact that they're trying not to repeal the measure, but actually trying to just delay it. From a campaign update, make sure that we're preserving, I think, a very tremendous opportunity for California. Now, many folks will remind us in the GHG reduction strategy that AB 32 has that if we were to get it absolutely correct, we would only change about 1% of the atmosphere in the world if California were able to meet its goals. And while from a metric standpoint that's not a very good number, it is an incredibly important policy for California to demonstrate to the rest of the country and ultimately to the world. This is a tremendous opportunity that we have. It should not be spoiled by ballot measure 23. And I do want to thank all of
you to advocacy and into better health. So right now, the false choice that I see as a clinician is this story about 23, right? That this is a choice apparently between a green economy or versus jobs. In other words, it's a choice between the environment and jobs. It's a false choice. It is simply a false choice as a clinician because it really, for me particularly, is a choice between your children's health, your family's health, the health of your community, and the interests of those corporations that are behind 23. It's as simple as that. It is health or it is industry interest. I say that in the most nonpartisan way possible. And that's as long as I can stand for someone with relatively normal lungs. And I would ask those who are proponents of 23 to walk around for a day with breathing through a straw, just to drive home the point of the effects of this measure. Neil mentioned earlier some of the burden that we talk about, and I want to go. I'll stay in this slide for a second and mention a couple of things. In terms of lost school days and work days, right? Nationwide, just asthma itself, not the other respiratory illnesses. Asthma itself leads to 14 million lost school days for children nationwide. Among adults, it leads to 12 million lost work days. So clearly the impact on the economy is huge.
Why is it that Valero and others, similar to other oil companies, are trying to fight AB 32? Because they want to continue to do business as usual, right? What is AB 32 going to do in addition to cleaning the air and reducing global warming emissions in California? It is setting a standard, a worldwide standard. Not whether AB 32 is killing jobs or not. The reality is that AB 32 is a worldwide, groundbreaking law that will effectively reduce global warming emissions, not just in California, but in the United States and hopefully elsewhere. I'm going to give you another example.
We really see this as an election that's about, as the previous speakers have mentioned, not about this false dichotomy between the environment and between jobs, but really this is about oil company profits and the threat that Californians have put to oil companies by saying, yeah, not only are we going to get ourselves off of being dependent on fossil fuels, but we deserve clean air and good jobs. And we're going to do what it takes to make that happen.
Comments, I would actually argue that this is about jobs. Today, the clean technology sector has created 500,000 jobs in California. Over 97,000 of them have been in I know it's real quick. Over 97,000 have been in manufacturing, 67,000 have been in construction. And in 5 years, assuming we don't repeal this proposition, we'll look back at those numbers and appreciate how, even though they're large, they're really minuscule, because we're going to accomplish so much more in the course of 5 years. The one thing we can't do is go back now. I can't emphasize enough the importance of providing that regulatory certainty to the clean technology community, because if we don't have it, we don't have a choice but to stop investments, stop job creation, and effectively do it. So again, I know, as Dr. Richmond mentioned earlier, I mean, to a large extent, we're preaching to the choir, because we very much appreciate how pollution affects the Latino community, but the reality is that if this proposition is successful, it's going to kill a very dynamic job-creating industry, and we don't want that.
Thank you, Ross.